The morning air was fresh as Malik walked out of his small house. He wore a neat blue shirt and carried a black leather bag on his shoulder. To anyone passing by, he looked like a simple man going to work, but inside that bag rested something that showed his true position. Malik was not just any man. He was the chief of police in his city, a man with years of service, respect, and responsibility. He never showed pride in his title. He lived a quiet life, greeting his neighbors, helping in community events, and walking to the local cafe before heading to the office. That morning, Malik decided to stop by the park near his street. He liked watching children play and the old men sitting together sharing stories. For him, the park was not just a green space, but a reminder that peace could be simple. He stood near the fountain, looking at the water sparkle under the sun. A gentle smile appeared on his face as he thought about his long years of service and how many challenges he had faced. On the other side of the park, 2 young police officers were on patrol. They were new to the job, full of energy and eager to prove themselves. Their names were Rahul and Naveen. They took their role seriously, always on the lookout for any trouble or suspicious activity. That morning, they had received a call about a man in dark clothes acting strangely near the park entrance. Without clear details, they decided to investigate. When Rahul and Naveen saw Malik standing near the fountain, they felt a quick sense of alert. He carried a bag, looked serious, and was quietly observing the area. To the young officers, he fit the vague description they had been given. They exchanged a glance, thinking that maybe this was the person they had been told about. Without knowing who Malik really was, they decided to approach him. Malik noticed the 2 officers walking toward him. His first thought was simple. He respected their effort and knew they were just doing their duty. He did not speak right away. Instead, he waited to see how they would handle the situation. His calm nature gave him patience. Rahul stepped forward and asked firmly, "Sir, may we know what you are doing here?" His tone was not harsh, but it carried authority. Naveen stood slightly behind, watching carefully. Malik looked at them and gave a soft smile. "I am just enjoying the morning air," he replied. His voice was steady, almost kind. But to the young officers, the answer seemed too relaxed. They wondered why a man with a bag would be standing alone in the park. "Can we see some identification?" Rahul asked quickly. He wanted to be sure. Malik reached for his bag slowly, but before he could open it, Naveen grew cautious. In his mind, people sometimes kept things in bags that could cause trouble. He stepped closer, ready to act. Malik noticed their rising concern, but he stayed calm. He knew their actions were not out of anger, but out of inexperience and fear of making mistakes. A small group of people in the park began to watch. They wondered why the 2 officers were questioning the man who often greeted everyone kindly. Some whispered among themselves, but no one stepped forward. Rahul repeated, "Sir, please show us your ID." This time, his voice carried more pressure. Malik nodded. He opened his bag carefully and pulled out his wallet. As he handed it over, something else slipped out along with it. A silver badge with the city emblem glimmered in the sunlight. It fell onto the stone floor near the fountain. Both Rahul and Naveen froze. Their eyes widened as they looked down at the badge. It was not just any badge. It was the official badge of the city's police chief. In that single moment, their firm posture shifted into surprise and even worry. The crowd around the fountain grew silent. Everyone realized what had just happened. The man they had thought was an ordinary stranger was in fact the highest officer in the police department. Malik bent down calmly, picked up the badge, and held it in his hand. His eyes met the young officer's eyes, but his face showed no anger. Instead, he said gently, "You both are doing your duty, but duty must always walk hand in hand with patience and understanding." The words touched both officers more than any strict order could. They realized the weight of their mistake, yet they also felt respect for the way Malik handled the moment. The park returned to its quiet rhythm, but the lesson from that encounter was only beginning to unfold. Rahul and Naveen stood frozen, their eyes still on the shining badge. For a moment they felt their hearts beat faster, not out of fear but out of sudden realization. The man they had been questioning was not only a senior officer, he was their chief. Their thoughts raced quickly. They remembered the many times their training officer had spoken about the chief, a man known for honesty, calm nature, and strong values. Malik noticed their discomfort and decided to ease the tension. He slipped the badge back into his wallet and looked at the two officers with a kind smile. "Young men," he said softly, "every officer starts with a desire to protect. I see that desire in both of you. But with experience you will learn that how you treat people is as important as what you protect." Rahul lowered his eyes. Naveen felt a wave of embarrassment but also relief that Malik was not angry. The chief's voice carried no harshness. Instead, it carried wisdom. The crowd around the fountain slowly drifted away, leaving only a few curious faces. Malik gestured to a nearby bench and invited the two officers to sit with him. They hesitated for a second, then nodded and sat down beside him. The morning sun spread across the park and birds fluttered around the fountain. It no longer felt like a tense scene, but rather a quiet lesson in leadership. "Tell me," Malik asked in a gentle tone, "what made you believe I was a problem today?" Rahul spoke first. "Sir, we received a call." The caller said a man in dark clothes was standing near the park entrance. "They said he looked suspicious. When we arrived, we saw you near the fountain with a bag. We thought maybe it was the same person." Malik listened without interrupting. He knew their explanation was honest. Then he turned to Naveen. "And what did you feel in that moment?" Naveen shifted in his seat. "Sir, I thought maybe the bag carried something unusual. I did not want to take risks, so I stepped closer." Malik nodded slowly. "You both acted with concern. That is good, but you must also learn to balance concern with observation. Did you notice me greeting the children before you arrived? Did you see the older men waving at me?" Rahul and Naveen looked at each other. They realized they had been so focused on the call that they had ignored the details around them. The chief was teaching them something deeper than just following orders. He was teaching them to see people as more than descriptions. Malik leaned back on the bench and looked at the trees swaying gently. Policing is not only about quick action. It is also about careful watching, patient listening, and fair judging. When you learn this balance, you will not only stop mistakes but also gain respect from the people you serve. The words settled in their minds like seeds ready to grow. Rahul felt admiration for the chief's calm way of teaching. Naveen felt grateful that this mistake turned into guidance instead of punishment. After a long pause, Malik stood up. "Come with me," he said. They followed him as he walked toward the park entrance. Children ran past, laughing. The two young officers noticed how people greeted Malik with warmth. A street vendor selling tea even called out, "Good morning, Chief." Rahul and Naveen were surprised. The same man they had doubted only minutes ago was clearly respected by the community. They realized how little they had understood about him. Malik stopped near the entrance and looked back at them. "In this job," he said, "you will face many people. Some will look ordinary but carry great respect. Others may look powerful but carry no honesty. Your eyes must be open and your heart must remain steady. Never let assumptions guide you completely." Rahul and Naveen nodded firmly. They felt as if they had just attended the most valuable lesson of their training. Before leaving, Malik placed his hand on Rahul's shoulder. "Do not carry shame in your hearts. Carry the lesson instead. Every day is a chance to grow into better officers." The two young men smiled faintly. They had started the day thinking they were proving their strength. But the day was proving something to them instead. As Malik walked away toward his office, the morning continued with calm beauty. Rahul and Naveen stood for a while watching him go. In their minds, they promised themselves to remember this moment forever. Little did they know, this small incident at the park would soon spread through the department. Many would hear about the day two young officers stopped their own chief without knowing it, and many would learn from the way Malik chose patience over pride. The story was only beginning, and its lessons were far from over. The sun had climbed higher in the sky by the time Malik reached his office. The building was not grand, but it stood with dignity, just like the man who led it. As he entered, the staff greeted him with smiles and respect. He responded to each greeting warmly, never showing distance between himself and his team. For him, leadership meant walking side by side with others, not standing above them. Inside his office, Malik placed his bag on the desk and sat in his chair. The memory of the park was still fresh in his mind. He thought about Rahul and Naveen. They were young and eager but needed guidance. Malik had seen many officers like them during his career. Some grew into wise leaders while others let pride or fear guide their path. He wished to shape these two in the right direction. Soon after, the assistant knocked on the door and entered with a file. "Sir, these are today's reports," she said. Malik thanked her and began reading. As he went through the papers, his mind returned to the lesson at the park. He realized that what happened was more than a small incident. It was an example of how quickly assumptions could turn into actions. If handled wrongly, even a simple misunderstanding could create problems. Later that morning, Malik called a meeting with his senior officers. The room filled with men and women in uniform, their eyes focused on him. They respected not only his title, but also his calm wisdom. Malik began by sharing the story of the park, without naming Rahul and Naveen. "This morning," he said clearly, "two young officers approached me. They believed I matched a description they were given. They acted quickly but without observing carefully. In the process, they forgot that good judgment requires patience. What do we learn from this?" The officers listened with interest. Some smiled faintly, already guessing what must have happened. One senior officer spoke. "Sir, we learn that experience teaches us to look at the full picture, not only part of it." "Exactly," Malik replied. "Our duty is not only about responding. It is about seeing, listening, and understanding. If we forget this, we risk losing the trust of the people we serve." The room grew thoughtful. Malik's words carried a quiet power. He ended the meeting by reminding them that every officer, no matter how young or old, must continue learning every day. The message spread quickly across the department. By evening, almost everyone had heard about the incident at the park. Meanwhile, Rahul and Naveen returned to the station still thinking about the chief's words. Their colleagues teased them lightly, saying, "You two are famous now. You stopped the chief himself." At first they felt shy, but soon they realized it was a chance to show growth. Instead of hiding, they told their colleagues openly, "Yes, we made a mistake, but the chief turned it into a lesson. We will not forget it." Malik noticed their attitude from afar and felt proud. He believed mistakes could become stepping stones if a person accepted them with honesty. That evening, Malik left the office later than usual. The city lights glowed softly as he walked toward his car. He stopped for a moment to watch people passing by. A young boy selling flowers offered him a rose. Malik bought it and placed it gently in his car. Small gestures like these reminded him why he worked so hard for the community. At home, Malik sat by the window with a cup of tea. His thoughts drifted back to his early years in the force. He remembered a time when he too had been a young officer, full of energy but short on patience. An older mentor had once told him, "Strength is not in raising your voice or rushing your actions. Strength is in the calm mind that can see clearly even in difficult moments." That advice had guided him throughout his career. Now he found himself passing the same wisdom to others. The next day brought new challenges, as every day did. But Malik carried with him the quiet satisfaction that something important had started in the park. He knew the story would not end there. In fact, it was only the beginning of a journey that would test not only the young officers but the whole department. As the week moved forward, whispers of respect for the chief grew louder among the community. People admired the way he had handled the incident with patience instead of anger. Parents told their children the story, shopkeepers discussed it while arranging goods, and elders in the park shared it with pride. The tale became less about a mistake and more about a lesson in leadership and dignity. Malik understood that leadership was never about showing power. It was about shaping people with kindness and guiding them with wisdom. And though he carried the title of chief, he always saw himself first as a servant of the people. The story of the badge at the park had set a new tone, and many more lessons were yet to unfold. The week moved on with the rhythm of daily duties. Officers filled the station, reports were written, and patrol cars rolled out across the city. But beneath the regular work, a quiet buzz of conversation continued. Everyone spoke about the chief's calm way of handling the park incident. Some called it wisdom, some called it patience, but all agreed it was a reminder that leadership could be gentle yet powerful. Rahul and Naveen were still adjusting to the attention. At first they felt uneasy when fellow officers asked them about the moment, but Malik's words remained in their hearts. They chose to share the story honestly, telling others how the chief had turned their mistake into a lesson. Soon, instead of embarrassment, they began to feel motivated. They promised each other to improve, to slow down, and to observe more carefully before making judgments. One morning, Malik arrived at the training hall of the police academy. It was a place where young recruits practiced discipline, learned the law, and prepared for the challenges of the job. The recruits stood in rows, their eyes filled with eagerness. The instructors were surprised when the chief himself entered, because he usually stayed busy with higher responsibilities. Malik walked to the front of the hall. His presence brought silence and respect. He did not speak with a loud voice, but his calm tone carried across the room. "I came here today," he began, "not to test you, but to share something important. Yesterday, 2 young officers made a mistake. But in that mistake, there was also a lesson. And it is a lesson for all of you too." The recruits leaned forward slightly curious. Malik explained the story in simple words. He told them how the young officers had acted quickly without looking around carefully. He described how assumptions can mislead even well-intentioned people. Then he paused and looked at their faces. "Every one of you will wear this uniform," Malik said. "With it comes power, but also responsibility. If you use only power, people will fear you. If you use responsibility, people will trust you. Ask yourself which is greater, fear or trust." The hall stayed quiet, but his question echoed inside every young mind. For many recruits, it was the first time they thought of policing not only as a duty, but also as a relationship with the community. Malik ended by saying, "Remember, a true officer does not stand above the people. He stands among them." The recruits gave a respectful salute, and Malik left the hall with a sense of satisfaction. He knew the seeds of wisdom must be planted early. That afternoon, Malik returned to his office, where Rahul and Naveen were waiting. They had been assigned to report directly to him for a week of guidance. Malik wanted to watch how they worked and help them grow. The 2 young men entered nervously, but Malik welcomed them with warmth. "Come," he said, "we will visit the old market together. It is a place where many people gather. There you will learn more than you can from any file or classroom." They drove to the market, which was alive with colors, smells, and voices. Fruit sellers called out their prices, shopkeepers arranged their displays, and children ran through narrow lanes. Malik walked slowly, observing everything, while Rahul and Naveen followed. He pointed out small details they had overlooked. "Notice the vendor's smile when he greets his customer," Malik said. "That smile tells you trust is present. Notice the old man sitting quietly by the corner. He may not speak, but his watchful eyes tell you he has seen much. Every corner of this market is full of stories. To serve people, you must first learn to see them as human beings, not just names in reports." Rahul and Naveen listened carefully. For the first time, they realized that observation was not just about catching wrong actions. It was about understanding people, their lives, their needs, and their feelings. As they walked further, a woman dropped her basket of apples. Malik bent down at once to help her gather them. Rahul and Naveen followed his example. The woman thanked them with a smile, and Malik said gently, "This is also part of our duty. When people see us helping in small ways, they begin to trust us in big ways." By the time they returned to the station, both young officers felt transformed. The market visit had shown them more about policing than any classroom could. Malik could see the change in their eyes. They were beginning to carry themselves not only as officers, but also as guardians of trust. That night, as the city lights glowed again, Malik reflected on the day. He knew the path of guidance was long, but every step mattered. And with Rahul and Naveen learning quickly, he felt hopeful about the future of the department. The lesson of the badge at the park was spreading like ripples in water, touching hearts, shaping minds, and preparing the ground for more growth ahead. The next few days brought more opportunities for learning. Malik made sure that Rahul and Naveen were not only given normal tasks, but also moments that tested their patience and observation. He believed growth came not from easy work, but from meaningful challenges. One morning, Malik called them into his office. The large window behind him filled the room with soft sunlight. On his desk lay several papers, but his attention was on the 2 young officers. "Today," he said, "you will accompany me to the community center. There is a meeting with local residents. I want you both to listen carefully, because listening is the first step toward understanding." Rahul and Naveen nodded eagerly. They had begun to feel comfortable around the chief, though his presence still carried weight. Together, they left the station and headed to the community center, a wide hall painted in bright colors where people often gathered for events and discussions. Inside, chairs were arranged in rows, and many residents had already taken their seats. The atmosphere was lively but respectful. As soon as Malik entered, people greeted him warmly. He moved through the crowd with ease, shaking hands, smiling, and calling people by their names. Rahul and Naveen were surprised. They had not realized how deeply the chief was connected to the community. The meeting began with simple matters: improvements in the park, repairs for broken streetlights, and concerns about traffic. Malik listened attentively to every speaker, nodding and sometimes writing notes. Rahul and Naveen noticed that he did not interrupt anyone, no matter how small or repetitive their concerns seemed. At one point, an elderly woman stood up and said, "Chief Malik, sometimes the younger officers do not greet us kindly when we ask for help. They act in a hurry and make us feel ignored." Her words were not sharp, but they carried disappointment. Rahul and Naveen felt their cheeks grow warm. They knew the woman was not pointing at them directly, but they understood the importance of her words. Malik looked at her with respect and replied, "Thank you for telling me this. Every officer must remember that respect is part of service. I will remind them again." The woman smiled and sat down, feeling heard. Malik then turned his gaze to Rahul and Naveen. Without words, his eyes told them that this was another lesson. They both nodded silently, promising themselves to always greet people kindly no matter how busy they were. As the meeting continued, more voices rose with concerns. A shopkeeper asked for better security in the market at night. A teacher requested safe crossings for children near the school. Malik answered each concern patiently, making notes and promising action where possible. The room filled with trust because people saw that their voices mattered. When the meeting ended, many residents stayed back to thank Malik. Some offered him tea, others invited him to their homes. Rahul and Naveen watched with admiration. They realized that true respect was not earned by holding power, but by showing care. On the way back to the station, Malik asked them, "What did you learn today?" Rahul replied, "Sir, I learned that people want to feel heard. Even small words of care can make a big difference," Naveen added. "And I learned that patience is not only for dealing with problems. It is also for listening to those who trust us." Malik smiled. "Good, remember, every voice has value. The day an officer forgets this is the day he stops serving the people." Back at the station, Malik invited them to join him for tea in his office. The three sat together in a calm silence for a moment. Then Malik spoke again. "You are learning well, but remember, wisdom is not built in a week. It is built every day through every choice you make." Rahul and Naveen listened carefully. They felt that each day with the chief added another stone to the foundation of their future. They also realized that mistakes did not define them. What defined them was how they responded, how they learned, and how they grew. That evening, Malik walked through the city on his way home. As he passed the park, he saw children playing and elders talking under the trees. He paused for a while, smiling at the scene. A few people noticed him and waved. He waved back, his heart filled with quiet pride. The memory of that morning when the young officers mistook him still lived in the community, but it had now turned into a story of respect. Malik knew more challenges awaited him and his team. Life always carried tests, but he felt confident that with patience, care, and guidance, both his officers and his community would continue to grow stronger together. The journey of lessons was far from over. The following week brought another new challenge for Rahul and Naveen. Malik believed that officers learned best not only from mistakes, but also from observing real situations in the city. He assigned them to accompany him on an evening community patrol. Unlike regular patrols, this was not about tickets or rules. It was about understanding people and seeing the city through their eyes. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Malik, Rahul, and Naveen walked through the busy streets. Streetlights flickered on, and shops displayed their colorful goods. Children played in open spaces while parents watched carefully. Malik moved calmly, stopping occasionally to greet shopkeepers and pedestrians. Rahul noticed a man struggling to carry a heavy basket of vegetables. Malik immediately stepped forward to help. Rahul and Naveen rushed to assist as well. The man thanked them warmly, his face bright with relief. Malik turned to the young officers. "See how small actions can create trust," he said. "This is part of our duty too. People remember the care we show in everyday moments." As they continued, Malik guided them through narrow lanes leading to different neighborhoods. In one area, they saw a group of children trying to fix a broken swing in a small park. Malik asked the young officers to help them. Rahul and Naveen joined in, lifting the wooden boards carefully, adjusting the ropes, and watching the children's faces light up with joy. A nearby shopkeeper, watching the scene, said to Malik, "It is wonderful how you and your officers take time to help. Most people just walk by." Malik smiled but did not speak much. He believed that actions often taught better than words. Later, they reached a quiet street where an elderly man sat outside his home, feeding birds. Malik greeted him warmly and asked how he was doing. The man replied with a smile, "Life is simple and it is good, but seeing officers who care makes it even better." Rahul and Naveen felt the importance of the moment. They understood that being a police officer was not only about enforcing rules but also about building relationships. Malik paused near a small community library. He had noticed that the children often played outside and missed the chance to read. He went inside and spoke to the librarian, asking if there were any ways officers could help promote reading among the children. Rahul and Naveen watched as Malik suggested reading sessions and activities. The librarian's face brightened. "That would be wonderful," she said. "The children would love it." On the way back to the station, Malik asked the young officers to reflect on the evening. "What did you learn from today's walk?" Rahul spoke first. "Sir, I realize that our presence in the community is not only to watch for problems but also to help in small ways. People notice even small gestures of kindness," Naveen added. "And I saw how listening to people and understanding their needs builds trust. It is more important than just following rules." Malik nodded. "Exactly. Our role is not only about authority, it is about connection. When people trust us, they cooperate naturally, and life becomes easier for everyone." Back at the station, the young officers wrote a report about the evening patrol. But this time their focus was different. Instead of listing problems, they wrote about interactions, lessons, and observations. They realized that their work could be more meaningful when seen through the eyes of the people they served. Later that night, Malik returned home. He sat by the window with a cup of tea, reflecting on the city. Every street he had walked today held stories of people living, working, and dreaming. He thought about how even small actions could create ripples of respect and understanding. The badge at the park had started a lesson, but this evening showed how lessons could grow in everyday life. Malik knew that Rahul and Naveen were slowly transforming. Their mistakes had become learning points, and their actions were beginning to show care and awareness. Leadership was not about giving orders, but about guiding others gently toward growth. As he looked at the quiet city below, he felt a quiet satisfaction. The young officers were learning to see beyond descriptions and assumptions. They were learning to see the humanity in every person. The journey was far from over, but the foundation had been laid. The city slept peacefully that night, unaware that its streets had been watched by a chief who valued respect in young officers, learning the true meaning of service. A few days later, Malik planned a special activity for Rahul and Naveen. He wanted them to learn how to connect with people in ways beyond routine patrols or meetings. He decided they would spend a day at the community youth center, where children often gathered after school. Rahul and Naveen were excited, but also a little nervous. They did not know what to expect. Malik smiled at them and said, "Today is not about rules or duties. It is about understanding, helping, and learning from the community." When they arrived at the youth center, the children ran toward them with curiosity. Some had paints and brushes for drawing, while others carried small musical instruments. Malik introduced Rahul and Naveen as helpers who wanted to spend the day with them. The children's eyes lit up with excitement. Malik encouraged the young officers to join the children in different activities. Rahul began with painting. He helped a little girl mix colors for her drawing, guiding her hands gently. Naveen joined a group playing a simple drum rhythm. Soon the children laughed and sang, making the center lively with sound and color. Malik observed quietly, smiling. He noticed how even small efforts from the officers created joy and trust. He believed that officers needed to understand the people they served, not just respond to incidents. By participating in activities, Rahul and Naveen were learning a different side of policing. During a short break, Malik gathered the children and the officers for a small discussion. "Do you know why we are here today?" he asked gently. The children shook their heads. "It is not only for fun, it is for learning, helping, and caring. Even officers need to practice these skills. A kind gesture can sometimes solve more than words or rules." Rahul and Naveen listened carefully, They understood that being part of the community meant more than checking reports or enforcing rules. It meant building trust, understanding people's needs, and sharing in their lives. After the discussion, Malik encouraged everyone to write messages on a large poster about what trust and respect meant to them. Children wrote simple sentences like, "Help friends, listen to others, and smile every day." Rahul and Naveen added their own thoughts too. Rahul wrote, "Kindness builds trust," while Naveen wrote, "Patience shows care." As the day continued, the youth center became a place of learning for everyone. Malik noticed how the young officers interacted with children, guiding them, encouraging them, and showing patience. He felt proud that they were slowly growing into officers who could balance authority with care. At the end of the day, Malik gathered everyone outside. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the center. He turned to Rahul and Naveen. "You see," he said, "every place you go, every person you meet is an opportunity to learn. Leadership is not only about giving instructions. It is about setting an example through your actions." Rahul and Naveen nodded. They felt that each day with the chief taught them something new, something that could not be learned from books or training alone. The experiences, the observations, and the interactions were shaping them in ways they had never imagined. On the way back to the station, Malik spoke quietly to them. "Remember today. Remember the children, their trust, their smiles. Every person you serve carries their own story. If you respect it, you build a community. If you ignore it, you risk losing trust." The young officers understood. They realized that policing was not only about solving problems or enforcing rules. It was about connecting with people, earning respect, and guiding them with care. Every action, no matter how small, had meaning. That night, Malik returned home and sat by the window reflecting on the day. He thought about how important it was to guide young officers with patience, care, and example. He believed that if they learned these lessons well, the city would be safer not because of fear, but because of trust. Rahul and Naveen left the youth center that evening feeling inspired. They had spent hours with children, learning how to listen, guide, and care. They understood that true strength in policing came from understanding, patience, and respect, not from quick actions or strict rules. The story of the badge, the park, the market, and now the youth center had slowly shaped a journey of growth. Malik knew the final lessons were yet to come, but the foundation was strong. The young officers were learning to become more than just law enforcers. They were learning to become leaders who could inspire trust, care, and understanding in their community. The city was calm that morning as Malik prepared for another day at the office. But unlike usual days filled only with reports and meetings, today was special. He had planned a final lesson for Rahul and Naveen. He wanted to show them how all the small lessons they had learned, the park, the market, and the youth center, connected into one bigger understanding of service and leadership. When the two young officers arrived, Malik greeted them with a smile. "Today," he said, "we will do something different. We will spend the day visiting families in the community. I want you to observe, learn, and think about what it means to serve with care and respect." Rahul and Naveen felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. They had learned so much over the past days, but they knew this would be a real test of their understanding. Malik led them first to a neighborhood where an elderly couple lived alone. The house was small, but the garden outside was full of flowers. The couple welcomed them warmly. Malik introduced the officers, and they spent time talking with the couple, listening to their stories, helping with small chores, and offering friendly advice. Rahul noticed how the couple's faces brightened when they were treated with respect and kindness. Naveen realized that the chief's calm and genuine attention made people trust him instantly. Next, they visited a young family with children preparing for school. Malik observed how the parents interacted with the children and asked Rahul and Naveen to assist with small tasks, like helping the children cross the street safely and carrying school bags. The officers followed instructions carefully, but Malik encouraged them to engage with the family, not just perform tasks. "Service," Malik said quietly, "is not just about doing duties. It is about understanding the people you serve. Observe, listen, and care. These moments build trust far more than rules ever can." The officers nodded. Rahul saw that the little things, the way they spoke, the way they helped, the attention they gave, made people feel safe and respected. Naveen understood that patience and awareness were as important as action. By midday, they reached a small park where children played, and elders sat watching them. Malik encouraged Rahul and Naveen to talk with both groups. The children ran to them, curious and cheerful. Rahul helped them organize a small game, while Naveen talked with the elders, listening to their advice and stories. Malik watched quietly, proud of how they applied what they had learned. After the park, Malik led them to the local market. He reminded them to observe, greet, and interact with the shopkeepers. Rahul and Naveen noticed how smiles and friendly words built connections. One shopkeeper even thanked them for helping a customer who had dropped her bag the previous day. The officers realized that consistency in kindness and attention created lasting trust in the community. At the end of the day, Malik brought them back to the station. He asked them to sit with him in his office. The young officers were quiet, reflecting on all they had seen and done. Malik looked at them gently and said, "Do you see now? All the lessons, the park, the badge, the market, the youth center, the families connect together. Leadership and service are not about rushing, judging, or acting quickly. They are about observing, listening, understanding, and caring." Rahul spoke first. "Sir, I understand that trust and respect are earned through small actions every day. Even a smile or helping someone can make a difference," Naveen added, "and patience is key. We need to notice, listen, and respond with care, not just follow instructions blindly." Malik nodded. "Exactly. Every day will bring challenges, but if you remember these lessons, you will not only be good officers, but also leaders who inspire confidence and respect in the community." The young officers felt proud and motivated. They realized how far they had come since the day in the park when they had mistaken Malik for a stranger. That incident had started their journey, but every step afterward had shaped them into thoughtful, observant, and caring officers. As the sun set that evening, casting warm light across the city, Malik walked with Rahul and Naveen outside the station. The streets were calm, children played, and neighbors greeted them. The city was alive with trust, respect, and connection. Malik felt a quiet satisfaction. He knew the young officers were ready to continue the journey, not as perfect officers, but as ones who would always strive to serve with care. The story of the badge, the park, and the lessons of the week had ended, but the lessons lived on. Rahul and Naveen were no longer just learners. They were now young officers carrying the wisdom of patience, understanding, and respect into every part of their lives and work. And for Malik, the chief, the quiet joy of seeing his team grow was the greatest reward of all.